Yeah. So we have connected.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our monthly chat show where we touch upon topics of interest from the spiritual perspective. And today we have a very interesting topic to discuss about the most authorized source of knowledge, of transcendental knowledge. Um, so there are so many, like, if we are to consider the Vedic canon, there is just volumes of literature. How does in this age, in this day and age, one actually um, resort to a one-stop source of knowledge that can answer pretty much all the questions that we have related to spirituality? So for this, as always, I have with me my friend Pratik Desai, who is an accomplished businessman, and he hails from the city of Mumbai, which is the financial capital of India. And he has a pretty illustrious academic background as a graduate student at a prestigious university called the University of Florida in the United States. Pratik, he's a spiritualist, and we like to call him, by now all of you are familiar, whoever is watching, whoever has been following us, uh, we like to call him an intellectual spiritualist. And he has spent more than a decade now practicing and teaching people to live a life that is centered on principles enunciated in the books of knowledge, of transcendental knowledge, um, legendary books like the Bhagavad-Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Interestingly, our topic today is it revolves around the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he's been doing this through the medium of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, um, that was established by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a very prominent, renowned spiritual teacher uh, in this that the world has seen in recent years. So, given the depth of understanding of the subtleties of our existence, Pratik is quite like appropriately positioned to talk about, where do we know about ourselves, about who we are, about what is it that we are meant to be doing, and what is really the best policy for us at any point in time. All that knowledge comes from somewhere, and that is the question we are going to discuss with Pratik today, about the about Srimad Bhagavatam. In what ways does it stand as the ultimate authority among all the Vedic scriptures that we have heard of, maybe? So, Pratik, would you like us to start shooting our questions right away, or do you want to share something before we dive into the questions that we have for you?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aritra, again for inviting me. And it's always a pleasure and honor to be a part of the talk show. So yeah, you can start shooting the questions.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm kind of like really raring to go here. So, and thank you so much for again joining us. So my first question is, um, we in the Vedic tradition, we have like so many different kinds of like sources of knowledge, so to speak. Um, there are things like, like Puranas, Itihasas, there are Vedas. So, but like, how do we know? How do we know? Like, what are the different ways in which knowledge can actually be sought? Is it always like reading, or like there are other ways of gaining knowledge? And we are talking about spiritual knowledge, not just physics or chemistry, like not the typically material knowledge. So what are the sources of gaining knowledge?
Yeah. The source of gaining knowledge is from the absolute truth, and the absolute truth is known through the help of scriptures. That is the only way, because scriptures are eternal. That's why there is no other way to know the absolute truth other than the scriptures. So scriptures are also categorized into Shrutis and Smritis. That's a general category of scriptures. Basically, the difference is that Shruti, it means that which is heard. So it is heard from the absolute truth directly. And Smriti means that which is remembered. So there are sages, devotees of the Lord who actually remember, and or they get revelation when they meditate, and that is actually written down. So that is called as Smriti, that which is remembered. So these are the two ways how the desire of the Lord is known to us. Otherwise, it is not possible to know the Lord, because we don't have the qualification to see God and to talk with Him. Because Lord is spiritual, completely spiritual, and in order to know something which is spiritual, we have to also be of the same nature. So a material object cannot know spirituality; they cannot experience spirituality. That's why there is a process which is linking the material realm to the spiritual realm, and that is through sound vibration. That's why at the beginning of creation, Brahma heard the word tapa. So he was actually meditating on the Supreme Lord, and he was unable to find out what is his duty and responsibility, what is his service. And then he started meditating on the Supreme Lord, and from within his heart, he actually heard the word tapa. So he kind of understood that uh, he has to undergo some kind of tap. Tap means austerity, some kind of sacrifice he has to do, and that's how he actually started meditating. And I think for 100 years he meditated, 100 or 1,000 years, and then finally he actually got to know what is his service, which is to create the universes and to also create the living entities. So he is a secondary medium how all the living entities have come into the material world. The primary creator is actually the Supreme Lord. So through the agency of Lord Brahma, he has created us. Or we can say that, as Bhagavad Gita says, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that Mama Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Puta Sanatana. Every living entity is actually eternally fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So in that sense, there is no creation. It's just that certain jivas, the soul is actually brought into the material world with a body. So that body is actually kind of created, because the body is destroyed also. So it is created also again. And so it's an eternal process, it's a cycle. So we have been in the material world since a long time. And depending on the karma, we are actually bonded in the material world. So in order to get free from this material bondage, now see, the reason we are in the material world is because we are connected to the material sound vibration. That's why. So in order to get out of the material world, and in order to connect with the spiritual realm, we need to hear spiritual vibration, and that is the sound vibration, which is in the form of the voice of the Lord, and finally it is in the form of the scriptures. So basically, in Kali Yuga, there is a requirement, there is a mandate of actually recording things, because you cannot remember things. It's very simple. In That's the requirement only for Kali Yuga. In previous yugas, Satyuga, Dwapar, Treta Yuga, people used to just hear and they would remember everything. And that's why in Kali Yuga, because we cannot remember things, we forget things very easily, right? If I ask you what you were doing yesterday on at this particular time, then you'll have to think about it, and you may forget also. So small things also we forget, right? What to speak of remembering so many lifetimes and all. So in order to remember, we must have some kind of recorded form of the duties of the living entities in the material world. What are we supposed to do in the material world? So that is called the scripture. So essentially, Shruti is something which is heard and it is transmitted from one person to another person. So it is actually descending from Supreme Lord. He's the one who is actually instructing Brahma, and then Brahma is transferring this knowledge to Narad to Ved Vyas, like that. And Smriti is something which is actually remembered. So now technically you'll see that there is not much difference, even if you consider the definitions of Shruti and Smriti. So ultimately, even in Shruti, one has to remember, right? That has to be remembered. So even though, like, you have heard something from the Lord, but you must have the capacity to remember what you have heard, exactly what the Lord wanted you to. And another important message and point is that the remembrance in itself is not extremely important. The what is most important is the revelation of the essential knowledge, what the Lord wants to convey to us. Okay, so you may remember the finer aspects and the details of the message, but if you do not understand the meaning of the instruction, or you miss out the essential instruction of the Lord, you don't want, if you do not follow the instruction of the Lord, then there is no point even in remembering that. So basically, the entire reason the Lord is appearing and is instructing the living entities, or if he would like to talk to other living entities, so that medium is through the scriptures. But understand one thing, that the scripture is spoken by the Lord in order to make the living entities come to the spiritual world, come to the spiritual realm, or connect to the spiritual realm. So if you follow the injunctions of the scriptures, then you will come out. But if you do not follow, then in spite of remembering whatever he has said, it does not have any use, right? So what is important is uh, the essence of those instructions, the goal of those instructions. Okay, and so that's why if you compare Shruti and Smriti now, so even though if Smriti is also heard, it is remembered, and this is heard directly from the Lord, technically you'll see that there is no much difference, because ultimately both have to be remembered and both have to be followed. Okay. Now, one major difference between a Shruti and Smriti is that the Shruti is an eternal sound vibration, or eternal syllables are already repeating in Brahma's every creation. So whatever syllable, like, see, there are like for example, tapa. So ta and pa, these are two syllables, and whatever words are there in the Shrutis. So they, so basically, these are all there in the Sanskrit language. And Sanskrit language is also divided into two parts. One is Vedic Sanskrit and one is classical Sanskrit. Now, most of the scriptures, most of the Upanishads, they are in the Vedic Sanskrit. That's why it's very difficult to, most of the Veda is there in the Vedic Sanskrit. So you will not be able to understand many of these things, because Vedic Sanskrit is extremely difficult to understand. So, like, it is said that classical Sanskrit, it takes you minimum 13 years in order to understand properly classical Sanskrit. And then it is mentioned that if you want to learn Vedic Sanskrit, it can take another 3 to 4 years beyond your knowledge of classical Sanskrit. So Vedic Sanskrit is very complex in nature, and over a period of time, now people are mostly using classical Sanskrit. It has been kind of lost, okay, because of its complex nature. Uh, so, you know, so when the Lord is speaking something, the syllables, whatever syllables are there, whatever words are used in the scriptures, they are eternally there. There is not even a single syllable change from one creation to another creation. In that sense, the nature of Shruti is actually eternal. Okay. It is always the same. It is never changed. Whereas if you compare the Smritis, then the Smritis, they may have some variation in terms of details. The essential message remains the same, because ultimately Smriti is actually meant to uh, decodify the message of Shrutis. Okay. So the essential message of the Shruti is the same, but the details may vary. And that's why certain words may also change. And in fact, you'll see that amongst the Purana also there is a lot of different opinions. And the way Purana present stories or the pastimes of the Lord, it is also different. So that's why we have to understand the real difference between Shruti and Smriti. So yeah, I mean, I hope this is clear.
Yeah, it makes sense. Both are essentially talking about the same thing. They're both talking about, they're both describing the um, instructions of the Lord, but Shruti is more direct, whereas Smriti is what, like, how do we, so um so can you give an example of, what would be a shruti and what would be a smriti, and
Okay.
to enunciate your points, how to for us to be able to see the difference. We
Hmm.
did understand that shruti is more direct, and smriti helps you decode. Can you give some examples of maybe books, and
Okay.
how like the two can be differentiated, like how to
Okay.
understand the
Okay.
difference? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So see, first of all, Shruti direct in the sense that it is, yeah, it is transmitted from the Lord. It is conveyed by the Lord. And Smriti is something which is realized. Okay. And then it is written down. So basically we have the scriptures because we cannot remember in Kali Yuga. That was what I was trying to convey. And
Mm,
now the Shruti basically consists of the four Vedas, Samved, Yajurved, Atharved, and Rigved. Okay. And each Veda, they are actually classified or further divided into four parts: the Brahmanas, the Aranyakas, the Samhitas, and the Upanishads. So basically, each and every Veda is categorized in terms of Karma Kand, Gyan Kand, and Upasana Kand. Okay. So basically, the Upanishads, they are the concluding section of the Vedas. That's why you'll see that most of the people who would like to establish a point, they will make frequent use of the Upanishads. They would like to, uh, if you want to establish a particular, uh, you know, the meaning of a particular sloka or the message of the particular Veda, the conclusion of the Veda, then that has to be, I mean, they will refer the Upanishads a lot because that it gives the conclusion of the Vedas. Now the problem is that you cannot understand the conclusion because there are contrary conclusions. It's not necessary that I mean there are, see, as of now people know that they are aware that there are probably around 108 Upanishads, and some say that there are more than that, but they are lost. They're like the minor Upanishads. These are the major Upanishads. Okay, now amongst the 108 Upanishads, there are different Upanishads which are leading to different conclusions, and they also contradict to some extent. So how do we actually understand which one gives the conclusion of the Upanishad? So basically, these are the four Vedas. The Veda, so Shrutis, so these things are heard directly. It is transmitted from the Lord to Brahma, and then Brahma is again transmitted. And then Smritis, the category of Smriti will basically, the Itihasas, the Puranas, and then the Manusmriti, and many other Smritis. So these are all which are actually the realizations and revelations of great personalities, and they have been written down. Okay, so it is not directly heard from the Supreme Lord. Now, one typical example, which is which can be considered to be a Shruti as well as Smriti, is the Bhagavad Gita.
yeah.
So if you see that now Bhagavad Gita is the part of Mahabharata. Mahabharata is a part of Itihas. So it is basically in the category of Smriti. But one definition of Shruti is that which is heard directly from the Lord. So now Krishna is directly speaking to Arjuna. So in that sense, Bhagavad Gita becomes a Shruti. So there is a Shruti inside the Smriti, right? So then how do you, like, then you cannot say which is more important because it becomes of the same nature, right? So this is, a major difference between Shruti and Smriti, and these are some of the examples.
Mm, okay, yeah, Bhagavad Gita, that's interesting. Bhagavad Gita is both, yeah. So so our topic today, I don't know if you want to, cover some other aspect of Shruti and Smriti, but like since our topic was revolving around Srimad Bhagavatam, so
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam is not something that is not like, compared to Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam is not so widely known. Okay,
Mm.
and Srimad Bhagavatam, as we understand, is Smriti, um, that combines, like, it's a Puran, and so it's a Smriti. It's called Bhagavad Puran. So, can you like talk about the Srimad Bhagavatam? Um, uh,
Yeah.
in this sense that, like the origin of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. And how does it, convey the instructions, or like the desires of the Lord? Like, as you said, the purpose of scriptures is for us to understand what does the Lord want of us, like, what is the best thing for us to do. So can you just
Right.
talk about those things in from the standpoint of Srimad Bhagavatam? How does Srimad Bhagavatam provide all that? And
Yeah. Yeah. So see, now as we have discussed that there are Shrutis and Smritis, so there are so many scriptures. There are Upanishads are 108. Then we know the subcategory of Upanishad. These are all again divided into four parts: Brahmanas, Aranyakas, then the Samhitas, and ultimately the Upanishad. And then we have the Smritis also. Now, Itihas also part of that. Mahabharata is part of Itihas. Then Ramayana also is a part of Itihas. And then the Puranas are also there. And then there are a lot of other Smritis also. So all of these other scriptures, they come in the category of Smritis. So there is a vast ocean of knowledge here. And so now, which one is more important? Which one is the most important? And which is the ultimate amongst them? So this is what we need to establish. And so let's first, what we can do is, let's first establish the authenticity of the Smritis compared to the Shrutis. So basically what I will be referring to is some verses from the Shrutis that directly state the Smritis are of the same nature as that of Shrutis. So they see, if someone says that Shruti is more important than Smriti, but in the Shruti itself, it is mentioned very clearly that the Smritis are of equal importance. It is of no less importance. Okay. And there is no statement in the Shruti which says that if there is a conflict between the Shruti and the Smriti, then one has to refer to the, or one has to give prioritize Shruti over Smriti. There is no statement like that in the entire Shruti. So once that is clear, once we establish the nature of Shruti and Smriti equally, then we can go ahead further and we can delve into the statements from the Smritis, what they talk about, which particular scripture they glorify and talk about a lot. Okay. And then ultimately we will conclude how Bhagavatam is actually standing at the top of the list. So yeah, so let me start by quoting some verses from the Upanishads. So I will first quote verses from the Upanishads, from the Vedas, from the Shrutis, and then I will also quote from the Smritis. So from both places we actually understand that they are of equal nature. Now, before that, there's a common notion amongst people that the Shrutis are more important. Now, as I said, that this is actually not mentioned anywhere in the Shruti. This is a conception which was derived from Shankaracharya, who promoted Advaitwad philosophy, making use of a lot of statements from the Upanishads, which actually convey the concluding knowledge of the Vedas as being impersonal. So basically, there are many statements in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, which say that the absolute truth is impersonal. Okay, it does not say the absolute truth is only impersonal. It says the absolute truth is impersonal. And then there are other Upanishads also, which states clearly that the absolute truth is actually a person also. Okay. So now what Shankaracharya did, he actually took only the statements from these scriptures, from these Upanishads, which convey that the absolute truth is impersonal. So there was some kind of biasness. Okay. And that's how he actually promoted his Advaita philosophy. And similarly, Jaimini Rishi also, actually he is a pure devotee of the Lord, but somehow he was instructed by the Lord to propagate the Karma Mimamsa philosophy. So it was Shankaracharya and Jaimini Rishi who actually promoted this idea that Shrutis, they have more preference over the Smritis. But actually in the scriptures, we will not see this. So let's look at some of the scriptures. So the foremost evidence we'll see in the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 2.4.10. it states that the Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharveds, as well as Ityas and Puranas, they all appear from the breathing of the Supreme Being, the breath of the Supreme Being. Okay. So now it is a clear understanding. These scriptures, they are all simultaneously appearing from the breathing of the Supreme Lord. Okay. This is one of the statement. Then second is from the Chandogya Upanishad 7.1.2. So it states that the Venerable Sir, I have studied the Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharveds, and also the Ityas and Puranas, which are the fifth Veda. Okay, so here the Chandogya Upanishad is establishing the Ityas and Puranas as the fifth Veda. So it's conveying that they are also Vedas. They are not different from Vedas. Then in the Atharveda 11.7.24, it is mentioned that the Rig, Sam, Yajur, Atharveds appeared from the Supreme Lord along with the Puranas and all the demigods residing in the heavenly planets. So, okay, again in the Atharveda 15.6.10 and to 12, it is mentioned that he approached the Brati meter, and thus the Ityas, Puranas, Gathas, and Narasamsis became favorable to him. One who knows this verily becomes the beloved abode of the Ityas, Puranas, Gathas, and Narasamsis. So again, Atharveda establishes the sameness of Vedas and the Puranas. Then in the Gopat Brahmana Purva 2.10, which is the Brahmana is a part of the Vedas. So it is mentioned in this way, all the Vedas were manifested along with the Kalpas, Rahasyas, Brahmanas, Upanishads, Ityas, Anvakyatas, and Puranas. Then in the Chandogya Upanishad 7.1.4, it is said, indeed, Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharved are the names of the four Vedas, the Ityas and Puranas are the fifth Veda. Then in the Taittiriya Aranyaka 2.9, it is mentioned the Puranas are also used in the formal study of the Vedas called Brahma Yajna. So the Ityas and Puranas are Vedas. Okay, so these are some of the statements from the Shrutis, from the Vedas, which clearly states or establishes the same nature of the Shruti and the Smriti. Now we will see some of the references from the Puranas, from the Smritis. So the Prabhaskand of the Skanda Purana 2.3.5 states, long ago Brahma, the grandfather of demigods, performed severe austerities, penances, and as a result the Vedas appeared along with their 6 supplements and their Pad and Krama text. Then the entire Puran emanated from his mouth, composed of eternal sound and consisting of 1 billion verses. It is the unchanging sacred embodiment of all scriptures. You should know that of the various divisions of this Puran, the Brahma Puran is the first. This is it is given in the Skand Puran. Then Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, beginning from the front face of Brahma, gradually the 4 Vedas, the Rig, Yajur, Sam, and Atharved became manifested. So this is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam 3.12.37. So Bhagavatam also further states that Brahma created the 5th Veda, the Puranas and histories from all his mouths, since he could see all the past, present, and future. This is given in Bhagavatam 3.12.39. Then in the Mahabharata books Dharma 340.21, it is mentioned the Ityas and Puranas are called the 5th Veda. And he taught the Vedas along with the 5th of their number, the Mahabharata. Then in the Vyasa Smriti 4.45, it is mentioned one who thoroughly studies the Vedas along with their 6 limbs and the Ityas and the Puranas become a true knower of the Vedas. Then in the Matsya Puran 53.8 to 9, Supreme Lord says, O best of the twice born, foreseeing that the Purana will gradually be neglected in every age, I assume the form of Vyas and abridge it. Then in the Vayu Puran, it is mentioned 60.16 to 18 and then 21 to 22. Sud Goswami explains why the Ityas and Puranas are considered the 5th Veda. So Srila Vyasdev, the Almighty Supreme Lord, accepted me, meaning Sud Goswami, as the qualified speaker of the Ityas and Puranas. In the beginning, there was only one Ved, the Yajur Ved, which Vyasdev divided into 4 parts. These gave rise to the 4 activities called Chaturhotra, by means of which Vyasdev arranged for the performance of sacrifice. So the Advaryu priests carry out their responsibilities with the Yajur mantras, the Hota priest with Rig mantras, the Udgat priest with some mantras, and the Brahma priest with Atharva mantras. And then Sud Goswami further states, O best of the twice born, therefore Srila Vyasdev, who best knows the meaning of the Puranas, compile them and the Ityasas by combining various Akhanyas, Upakanyas, and Gathas. Whatever remained after Vyas divided the Vedas into four parts, what also called was also Yajur Veda. This is the conclusion of the scriptures. So basically, whatever was remaining, that was called as Yajur Veda, meaning that again, the Ityas and the Puranas were equated with the Vedas. And then the Vayavya Samhita of the Shiv Puran states, the ingenious Lord abridged the Veda and then divided into Vyasta into four. Therefore, he became known as Ved Vyas. He also summarized the Puranas in 400,000 verses, but in the heavenly planets, they still comprise of 1 billion verses. This is Shiv Puran 7.1.37 to 38. This indicates the Vedic nature of Puranas by discussing their appearance along with the Vedas. Yeah, so basically, see, the point is that the Vedas and the commentary on the Vedas, which is the Vedanta Sutra, is very esoteric in nature. And on the top of that, they have also been interpreted in different ways by different people. So whereas the Ityas and the Puranas, they are much more accessible to all classes of people, since they depict the philosophical conclusions of the Vedas in a form of contemporary story and relevance. Yeah. So I hope this establishes the fact that the Shruti and Smriti are of the same nature.
Okay. So they are of the same nature, but in today's day and age, it is extremely difficult. First of all, it is very extreme. It's very difficult for people in general to have such inclinations, to want to know about, to want to know deeper about the spiritual subject matter. So in this age, there are the Smritis, which are decodifying the Shrutis, though they're on equal footing, so that people can take advantage of the Smritis. So again, turning the discussion like back to now that you have established through references, through scriptural references, cross references, Shruti supporting the Smritis, Smritis supporting the Shrutis, as well as supporting the primeval importance of Puranas like the Bhagavad Puran, Srimad Bhagavatam. In we talk about like Srimad Bhagavatam, like of all you already quoted many verses supporting it, but we want you to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam from a more that's more relatable academic standpoint, and also based on your own realization, which will be very helpful for us.
Yeah, okay. So I just received one more question, that if Shrutis and Smritis, they are of equal stature, then why is it necessary to separately categorize the Smritis? So that's it's an important question. So let's address that question, and then we will proceed to what you are asking. So basically, the point is that, as I have already read out that the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra, they are very complex, they are very esoteric. If you read the Vedanta Sutra, you will not be able to understand anything, because these are all one-liners. The Vedanta Sutra is actually the essence of the conclusions of the Upanishads, and Vyasdev is just mentioning the conclusion in one line. So you will not be able to reconcile many things in the Vedanta Sutra. And again, as I said, that most of the Vedas is actually in the Vedic Sanskrit language. So these things becomes very difficult in order to properly digest and understand. And there are a lot of contrary things also in that. So in order to understand the meaning of the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra, we have the Puranas, we have the Ityas, we have the Shrutis. So that's why by the word definition, it is, the Purana means Puran means that which completes. So something that completes something, right? That's actually the true meaning of Purana. Puran means it is actually completing. Now, what it is completing? It is completing the Shrutis. So there are, see, in fact, I did also read out some slokas from the Shrutis where it is said that if you want to understand, you have to understand the Ityas, the four Vedas along with its six supplements and Ityas and Puranas in its entirety. So you cannot understand them without the help of the Smritis, without the help of the Ityas and the Puranas. Okay. Now the only reason why they are categorized differently. So like someone may ask that, okay, let's just like we have Upanishad as being the conclusion of all these Vedas. Why don't we have the Puranas as the conclusion of the part? Being like they could have been included in the part of the Vedas, and like the Upanishad, they would have been referred to as the conclusion of the Vedas. So it is not like that, because first of all, one has to understand that it appeared, see, everything appeared from the breath of the Supreme Lord. Then there was also sloka from the Shruti which said that these are all eternally there. These are all eternally present. And then there's also another sloka which says that Brahma actually forcing, because he knows the past, present, future. So, the Ityas and Puranas, they all appear together along with the Vedas, right? So we can understand that in terms of time, there is no difference. They are all eternal in nature. Okay. And that's why they are part of the, now how can everything appear from the breath of the Supreme Lord when they are not together? So if by the breathing of the Supreme Lord, by the exhaling of the Supreme Lord, if something is coming out, then obviously everything comes out at the same time. So you cannot say that, okay, some things came later and some came now. Okay, it's all in there. It's all together. So these are all eternal scriptures. There is no question of saying that the Smriti is not eternal because it is remembered and realized by the sages. Okay, it is remembered by the sages, it is revealed to them, and it is in the realized form because they got that revelation at that particular time. But it was existing before, the knowledge was existing before. Just like, for example, the Bhagavatam also, Bhagavatam has the Chatushloki Srimad Bhagavatam. The 4 verses of the Bhagavatam actually originally was spoken by Krishna to Brahma, and then Brahma spoke this to Narad Muni also. And then later on, Narad Muni, he spoke to Ved Vyas, and then Ved Vyas to Sukdev Goswami. Like that, it got transmitted. So originally, the entire Bhagavatam was actually consisting of only 4 verses. It is so when Narad Muni was explaining to Ved Vyas, he actually explained Ved Vyas in 7 verses. So that 4 verses were expanded to 7 verses, and then Ved Vyas actually expanded those 7 verses in 18,000 verses. Now, this is required for us because we do not understand the language of the purified souls, the pure devotees. How much they can digest, they can understand. We cannot understand that. So for the laymen, for the common people, for those who are unqualified, all of them, they can. So what is the means that they will understand? And that's why something which is in the category that can be accessed, easily accessed by people in all these categories, that is actually the Puranas, that is the Ityasas. Now, why? Because it is very simple. It is written in a very simple language. Because there are a lot of stories in that, and they are very much relevant to today's day and age, the current practices that people have. So they can always refer to the Smritis. It's very easy to actually deduce lessons from past times. From when you have some sort of stories, it's very easy to actually learn lessons from that. Otherwise, if I give you some very technical knowledge and a lot of philosophical statements, you'll not be able to understand it. And especially what if I say that, okay, I just shoot one-liners, so you'll not be able to understand the meaning of that, right? So in order to make people understand according to timeless circumstance and to cater to all these unqualified people, there was a requirement for a scripture which was of the same nature, but at the same time also suiting to the less crowd. I mean to the crowd which is not so qualified to understand. So that's why this concept of Ityas and Puranas as being separate from the Vedas came up. Okay, so essentially, even the Ityas and Puranas, now they were also spoken in a very short in a short form. Just like I gave the example of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So they were also spoken in a very short way, not elaborated. But later on, because of seeing the dullness of the people of Kali Yuga, they were expanded upon. So that's why you'll see that there are verses which states that there are 1 billion verses in the heavenly planets, right? But actually, Brahma does not require those 1 billion verses. He understands everything in few verses, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 verses, like that. It's just that as you move along in the material world, you come down to the material world, the more elaboration, the more explanation people require for that. So in the material world, there are so many verses, but in the heavenly planets also, you'll see that in the material world, there are so many verses, right? So that's why a separate need was there in order to cater to these kind of people. So we have the Smritis as being different and separate. And at the same time, now what establishes their originality or the same nature as the Srutis is that, see, you cannot complete a thing which is of a different nature. You cannot complete a thing by another thing which is of different nature. Like for example, if you have a gold bracelet and a portion of the gold bracelet is broken, or it is like, you have broken the bracelet and there's no way to find out where it has gone. So you have to fix it. You have to get the gold bracelet and you have to fix it. Now, you will not go to the metal shop and say that, okay, give me a metal and I will fix along with the gold bracelet. Because obviously it will be a very odd combination. It will not go with the gold bracelet. The metal is obviously of a inferior quality and value compared to the gold. So if you want to complete thing of the same nature, then you have to complete it with something which is of the same nature, right? So what you will do is you will get only the gold part, and that too a gold which is matching your texture, right? It is going to match your texture, the texture of the gold bracelet that you are wearing. Then only you'll fix it. Like, it's like repairing a car. Like, if one of your you go to the workshop and if you want to repair the body of the car, then let's say some portion of that car is damaged and you want to replace that. So obviously you will fix it in such a way that the entire look is uniform, and one will feel that the car is looking new now, right? So you cannot complete a thing with another thing of a different nature. You can only complete it with the same nature, right? So in that sense, because Shruti says that you have to understand the Shruti with the help of the supplements and with the help of the Ityas and the Puranas. That means they are of the same Vedic nature. Otherwise, you can. And then another interesting shloka was that some of the prayers, from these Puranas, they are actually used as a part of the Brahma Yajna. Okay, so you cannot, unless and until, see, now Brahma Yajna is actually a Vedic, it's Vedic in nature. So you cannot use slokas from the Puranas in order to perform that yajna. So the fact that Puranas are also being used, it clearly indicates that it has the same nature, right? But this is the only thing, because there is a need in order to cater for the different kinds of people who are not qualified. We call it a separate. We have a separate part, and that is called Smriti. So so I hope that answers the question about the requirement of Smriti being separate from the Shruti. And now coming to your question. So coming to the Bhagavatam. So see, basically now let's connect the same explanation with Bhagavatam also. You'll see that Bhagavatam, one of the reasons Bhagavatam is actually the ultimate authority is because the Bhagavatam opens with a Gayatri. Now, this is not directly a Gayatri, but it is actually Gayatri in a hidden form. So you'll see that Janma Asya Yata, that first slok, 111 of Bhagavatam, ends with Satyam Param Dhimahi. Now, only the Gayatri is actually consisting of these such kind of words. Param Dhimahi, Dhimahi, it ends with Dhimahi. So Gayatri actually ends with Dhimahi. When you see the Brahma Gayatri or any other Gayatri, it uses particular sets of words which are there in the Gayatri only. So you'll see that the first verse of the Bhagavatam does not include the entire Gayatri, but the objective of the particular sloka or the book is that it reveals the Gayatri. Okay, Satyam Param Dhimahi. So basically, the Gayatri actually reveals absolute truth, and it also glorifies absolute truth. So you'll see this is the opening statement of the Bhagavatam, and that's how in a hidden form. Now, see, the problem is that Gayatri is supposed to be chanted only by those who are born twice or by Brahmanas. You cannot chant the Gayatri without being a Brahmana, without, or you can say, in other words, you cannot chant the Gayatri without having the proper qualification. So, in order to retain the meaning of the Gayatri, but to cater to the unqualified people, the Gayatri in the Bhagavatam is hidden. It is not completely open because one is not allowed to. It's a secret mantra. Gayatri is a secret mantra. It has to be received in parampara from a guru. Without that, you cannot chant the Gayatri openly, directly. People, they do chant Brahma Gayatri these days, which has become very common, but ideally it won't yield any result. So we have this very famous Brahma Gayatri, Om Bhur Bhurasva Tat Savidur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Na Prachodaya. So this actually mantra is not supposed to be chanted openly. It is a secret mantra. Okay, and that's why the Bhagavatam is covering that Gayatri, because if it makes it open, then people who are unqualified will also be able to chant it. So in order to cater to unqualified people, at the same time to retain or to preserve the the importance of the Gayatri, so that people only who are qualified can chant, it is in a hidden form. So this is one of the reasons how Bhagavatam is considered to be the authority. Now we will go through many of the verses, many of points that reveal the essential nature of the Bhagavatam and why it is considered to be the topmost Purana. So basically, okay, it is mentioned in Narada Purana. So, lovely one, I consider the Puranas more important. So now let's see. We have already established the supremacy or the, I mean, not the supremacy, but these same nature of the Shruti and Smritis. Now we'll see the supremacy of the Puranas amongst the Smritis. Okay. So the Narayana Purana will state that, oh lovely one, I consider the Puranas more important than the Vedas because the Puranas firmly established all the Vedic meanings. There is no doubt of this. One who disrespects the Puranas will take birth as a subhuman. Even if he can expertly control his senses and mind, he can attain no good destination. Then the Prabhaskand of the Skand Purana, 5.3.121 to 24 states, O best of twice born, I consider the meaning of Puranas to be as well as established as that of the Vedas. Without doubt, all the Vedas are given a firm foundation in them. Once, long ago, the Vedas became afraid of those who might hear from her insufficiently, and she thought, this sort of person will distort my meaning. But then the Itihas and the Puranas helped the Vedas by firmly establishing her meaning. What cannot be found in the Vedas is found in the Smriti, and what cannot be found either is clearly explained in the Puranas. A person is not considered learned if he does not know the Puranas. O learned Brahmanas, even if he has studied the four Vedas along with the Vedangas and the Upanishads. Then the Mahabharata Adi Parva 1267 and the Manu Samhita states, one should complement one's understanding of the Vedas with the help of the Itihas and the Puranas. Okay, so now this actually leads us to understand that how Puranas actually are supreme amongst the Smritis. Yeah, so now let's go to the discussion where we can establish how Bhagavatam amongst the Puranas is actually the supreme. So any questions before that?
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead into that topic.
Okay. So according to the Matsya Puran, so there are 18 major Puranas. I think most of the people are aware of this. So 6 in the category of mode of goodness, 6 in the mode of passion, 6 in the mode of ignorance. And so basically, according to these Puranas, they are divided in 3 categories according to the modes of material nature they emphasize or represent. So the Puranas that lead to Sattva-guna are the ones that recommend the worship of Krishna and Vishnu, and similarly, which recommend the worship of Shiva, Durga, other than gods. They lead to Rajas gun, mode of passion, and Tamasic gun, respectively. So it is, and obviously we know that it is only the mode of goodness through which we can understand spiritual knowledge, right? So once we know the categorization of Puranas, we can also easily understand that the Puranas in the mode of goodness has to be given preference over the Puranas in the mode of passion and ignorance, because passion ignorance can never lead to happiness and satisfaction, and in fact it also leads to misery, whereas mode of goodness leads to satisfaction and bliss. So among the 6 Puranas in the mode of goodness, only the Bhagavatam is glorified like no other scripture, that actually decodes the true meaning of all scriptures and describes the absolute truth in its entirety. So glories of Bhagavatam. So it is very interesting to know that glories of Bhagavatam are described in almost all the Puranas. Matsya Puran, Vayu Puran, Padma Puran, Skand Puran, Garud Puran, Mahabharata, Agni Puran. We'll see. Now I'll be quoting some verses also. Whereas you'll see that other scriptures, they are not actually glorified like that, the way Bhagavatam is. In fact, it's only the Bhagavatam which is glorified in other Puranas quite frequently. Okay, so the Agni Purana 272.6 to 71 states. So in the beginning of one of the Puranas, the Gayatri Mantra is the focus of discount. In it, all the ramifications of true religion are enunciated, and the killing of the demon Vritrasur is described. The Purana which has these characteristics is called the Srimad Bhagavatam. It deals with the Saraswat Kalpa and has 18,000 verses. One should give it as a gift on the gold lion throne in the month of Proshtapad, which is Bhadra. So this is Agni Puran glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. The 96th chapter of the first part of the Naradiya Puran lists the topics of all 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam in order. This particular list fits the Bhagavatam, but not the Devi Bhagavatam. So there is another scripture called the Devi Bhagavatam, but the Bhagavatam which is glorified here is actually the Srimad Bhagavatam, not the Devi Bhagavatam. And the Padma Puran Uttarakhand 193.3 states, among all the Puranas, Bhagavatam is the best. In every line, great sages glorified Lord Krishna in various ways. All these leaves no doubt that Bhagavatam mentioned in the quoted Puranic verse is Srimad Bhagavatam. The Skand Puran, Vishnu Khand 6.4.3 states, the Srimad Bhagavatam and the personality of Godhead are always of the same nature, possessed of eternal existence, full knowledge, and complete bliss. And the Padma Puran Uttarakhand 198.30 confirms Srimad. So without a doubt, Bhagavatam is directly Lord Krishna. That Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna is confirmed in the Bhagavatam itself, where Sud Goswami states that after the Lord's disappearance, the Bhagavatam appeared as his representative to enlighten the ignorant people of Kali Yuga. The Padma Puran also confirms the oneness of the Bhagavatam and the Lord, with this passage equating the Bhagavatam's canto with Krishna's limb. So in the Padma Puran, there are slokas which actually equate the 12 cantos of Bhagavatam with the body limbs of Lord Krishna. And so it mentions the first and second cantos of Bhagavatam are Sri Krishna's lotus feet. Third and fourth cantos are the thighs. Fifth canto is his navel. Sixth canto is his chest. The seventh and eighth cantos are his arms. The ninth canto is his throat. The 10th canto is his beautiful lotus face. 11th canto is his forehead. The 12th canto is his head. And then the Padma Puran further glorifies by saying that I bow down to that Lord, the ocean of mercy, whose color is like that of tamal tree, and who appears in this world for the welfare of all. I worship him as the bridge for crossing the unfathomable ocean of material existence. The Bhagavatam has appeared as his very self, clearly given in the Padma Puran. Okay, then the Garud Puran states, see, now these are all Sattvic scriptures, and obviously there are references from the Skand Puran also, from the Agni Puran also, which are in different categories. So there are it's not that only the scripture in the mode of goodness is glorifying Bhagavatam. Even in other categories, they are glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. So the Garud Puran says the Bhagavatam is the most perfect Purana. It is the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. It establishes the meaning of the Mahabharata. It is a commentary on the Gayatri. It explains and expands the meaning of the Vedas. It is the Samved of the Puranas, and it was spoken by Supreme Lord himself. It has 12 cantos, hundreds of chapters, and 18,000 verses. And Vyasdev states in the Mahabharata, Adi Parva 1.62, O Lord Brahma, in this great work, Mahabharata, I have included the secret essence of all the Vedas and of all the scriptures as well. It explains in detail the Vedas, 6 corollaries, and the Upanishads. So after these appeared, the entire Purana, now this is given in the Skanda Purana, Prabhaskand. After these appeared, the entire Puran incorporating all scriptures. The Purana is unchanging, consists of eternal sound, is auspicious, and includes as much as 1 billion verses. Now you will see what earlier I stated, quoting Vedgas from the Mahabharata, is that the Mahabharata is actually explains the details and the essence of Vedas, right? So also the essence of Mahabharata. Now see, the same essence Mahabharata is also conveying through the Bhagavad-Gita and the Narayani section of the, you'll see Vishnu Sahasranam and the Narayani section, the same essence of the conclusion of Mahabharata is actually conveyed. The Srimad Bhagavatam is expanding. Now, whatever conclusion is propagated by Mahabharata, that same, the Bhagavatam expands throughout its text. So what is the essence of Mahabharata? Bhagavad Gita, Narayana section, and Vishnu Sahasranam. But you'll see that the Bhagavatam is pervading this message throughout the text. So one can deduce that in spite of being a rival to other Puranas in the mode of goodness, what is extraordinary about Srimad Bhagavatam is the distinctive praise that it receives from all these other rival Puranas also. So the rival Puranas, they are actually glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is not glorifying any other Puranas. And all these other Puranas, they are not even talking about themselves. They are glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so hence the Bhagavatam is one of the main Puranas, since many Puranas include it in their list of the 18 Puranas, and no such list excludes it. Moreover, unlike other scriptures, only the Bhagavatam glorifies itself in an exceptional manner by stating 12.13.14 that the other Puranas shine forth only as long as Srimad Bhagavatam is not heard. So this kind of extraordinary glorification the Bhagavatam is mentioning about itself is not found to be in any other Puranas. Also, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.43 compares itself to the sun, unlike any other scriptures, since it is not different from the absolute truth. So none of the other scriptures, they say that they are like the sun. They are not comparing to be like the sun, right? So this is a most important glorification of the Bhagavatam. Now, another striking point is that even after dividing the Vedas, compiling all scriptures, providing their essence in the form of Vedanta Sutra, Vyasdev was still not satisfied. And then finally, upon receiving instruction from his spiritual master, Narad Muni, ultimately he wrote the Bhagavatam and then became completely satisfied. So this shows how Bhagavatam reigns supreme amongst all other scriptures. Okay, now there are other few considerations also why Bhagavatam is to be considered as the ultimate, is because an important consideration is the Gayatri Mantra. Now, Gayatri Mantra is actually not different from the Lord. It is Vedic in nature. Okay. So it is expansion of the sound vibration Om of the Lord and reveals the essence of all scriptures. And the Bhagavatam is the only scripture that opens up with the indirect reference to Gayatri, Satyam Param Dhimahi. This shows how Bhagavatam reveals the essence of scriptures. And some of the exceptional glories of Bhagavatam that are nowhere to be found are, we see in the Bhagavatam that there is a role reversal amongst Guru and disciple. you'll see that generally a disciple hears and learns from the guru. But in the Bhagavatam, we see that Sukadeva Goswami, being a disciple of Vedvyas, was actually the speaker, narrator of the Bhagavatam, and Vedvyas was actually a disciple. So he was also sitting in the assembly and he was hearing. So basically, irrespective of a position and a stature, Bhagavatam is completely transcendental. This indicates the unprecedented nature of the speaker as well as the kind of audience that attended the discourse. Now, see, this is also very interesting. What kind of audience attended the discourse? So, in the history of mankind, no other scripture demonstrated such an elevated speaker, audience, and author who had assembled together in order to inquire about the purpose of life and understand the absolute truth in full. Also, the Bhagavatam is actually a Mahapurana. A Purana is one, a Mahapurana is one in which it deals extensively with the 10 topics, 10 subject matters that are required to fully describe the content of all Vedic scriptures. And the 10 topics basically are Sarg, Visarg, Sthanam, Koshanam, Uttaya, Manvantara, Ishanukatha, Nirodha, Mukti, and Ashray. Whereas a lesser Purana deals only with 5 of them extensively. Okay, which generally in the lesser Purana, they will only speak about Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Manvantars, and Ishanukatha. However, the Mahapurana is actually a one which is speaking about 10 topics in detail. Okay, so all the 12, now we'll see that Bhagavatam, all the 12 cantos, they talk about the 10 subject matters. Although some cantos place more emphasis on certain topics and less on others. Only Bhagavatam describes all these 10 topics in depth compared to any other Puran. So see, now another interesting point is that whichever different Puran, you'll see that the subject matter or the inquiry is restricted. Like for example, you talk about Ling Puran. So they want to, the people, they want to know about the glories of Linga. They want to know the history of Linga, the pastime of Linga. And then Agni Puran, also the same thing. Vayu Puran, also the same thing. These are all the demigods who are actually speaking. So that's why they have got the name Agni Puran, Vayu Puran, like that. But you'll see that the audience in all these other different scriptures, they are the ones who are asking about limited and restricted topics. They are not inquiring about the essential truth of life, the absolute truth of life, the ultimate goal of life, what is going to happen after death. So you'll understand that these are all restricted to, so that's why the speaker is only emphasizing and he's only sharing content which is asked by the audience. It does not allow him complete freedom to share about the absolute truth or to understand what is the meaning of life, what is the purpose of life. But you'll see that right from beginning to end, the Bhagavatam glorifies the Lord, the absolute truth. And you look at the audience, as I've already shared, the audience is a huge audience, all extremely qualified audience, and they are fixed up in one thing. They would like to know what is the purpose of life, what is the duty of a dying man. The only reason the Bhagavatam was spoken is basically to pacify Sukadeva Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, who had this inquisitiveness of knowing what is actually the ultimate purpose of life, what I'm supposed to do now. So you see, it is very clear that all other Puranas, they are of restricted nature, but only the Bhagavatam is providing a complete and holistic view of everything, all the scriptures. So this is how we have established the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. So I hope it makes sense. And if there are any further questions or comments, then please share.
Yeah, I was going to. You covered that point about what does the Bhagavatam cover that is of importance to general people. So it covers like the 10 subject matters that you mentioned.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
okay. Let me also share the English translation because maybe many of them may not be able to understand what is the meaning of Sarg, Visarg. Mm-hmm. So Sarg means the elemental creation, which is the primary creation. Then Visarg means the secondary creation. Sthanam means the planetary systems, how they are positioned, how the planetary systems in the universe they are positioned. Then Poshanam means to protect, to nourish. Okay. Then Utaya, the creative impetus, okay, which is basically, why things are moving in the material world. Then the Manvantars, the periods of Manus, the description of Manus. Then Ishanu Katha, the science of God. Nirodha, dissolution. Mukti, liberation. And Ashray, the supreme shelter. So see, if we do not cover up about mukti, liberation, which is mukti, then ashray, supreme shelter, then there is no meaning of the particular scripture. So there the scripture must actually talk about these things, mukti and ashray. Okay, otherwise obviously there will be something missing. The goal will be missing in that. And that's why the lower Puranas, they only focus on Sarg, Visarg, Sthanam, Manvantaras, and Vishnu Katha, but they do not place a lot of emphasis on the ultimate goal. Okay, so these are the important subject matters that the Srimad Bhagavatam extensively covers, not just in one canto, in a particular canto, but in all the cantos. Some cantos they emphasize more, like for example, the 10th canto is actually the ashray. It is basically the shelter of a living entity, and that 10th canto is actually the face of the Lord. Okay, it is ultimate shelter of the Lord, shelter of the living entity. So it is very important. This ashray has to be there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was helpful to translate it into English for people who won't understand the Sanskrit word. Okay. So Srimad Bhagavatam is organized in like 12 cantos. And how should one read Srimad Bhagavatam? Is it required that it has to be read in an order, like starting with the first, going until the 12th, or can readers pick from somewhere in between, maybe start with the 4th canto? So is it helpful to read it in an order?
Okay. Well, see, the thing is that there are many stories from the Bhagavatam which are taken by uh, devotees, and they have written books on that. I mean, separately writing stories, like for example, the pastimes of Dhruv Maharaj, pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, pastime of Gajendra. I mean, and obviously we have the entire Ramayana, the entire Krishna pastimes and all that in the Bhagavatam. Then there is also some portion of Mahabharata in that. So in one way, we can read those stories in isolation. But if you want to experience Bhagavatam, then Bhagavatam is full. So see, now obviously, if you want to know the essence of Bhagavatam, that is the 10th canto. That is the smiling face of Krishna. If you read that much, you are satisfied, or if you are not able to read anything else, then yeah, the 10th canto is the essence of Bhagavatam. But if you want to truly know what is Bhagavatam, then obviously, it makes sense to read it entirely. Because so in any case, Bhagavatam is compared to the Lord's body. So the lotus feet, the thighs, the navel, chest, and everything is equally important. Okay, and you will miss out something if you do not read the entire Bhagavatam. You may miss out some certain things. But yeah, I mean, the essential, because the thing is that, okay, it's a very big scripture. So how will you read it? So you must have some technique, and the technique is that, okay, you read every day. You can start with 5 verses, and you don't have to rush. So let the Bhagavatam be finished in that way. It may take up to 4 to 5 years to complete, but it's okay, depending on the time that you have, depending on the interest you have. Then you can start with few verses, and then you can just keep continuing gradually. So yeah, I mean, it's good that if we know the Bhagavatam at least once, know in the sense that at least we have gone through it once, the entire Bhagavatam. And then there are a lot of other stories which can be read in isolation. But yeah, someone would like to experience the flavor of Bhagavatam, then obviously, um, and the first two cantos of the Bhagavatam, they are also very important. Um, and if you also want to get a connectivity from one canto to another canto like that, then also it's very important to read the entire Bhagavatam. So, yeah.
And then what? And then, so there is knowledge of those 10 subject matters in the Bhagavatam. But what uh, what tangible effects, what effects can a reader expect to see in themselves after having read the Bhagavatam, or even during reading Bhagavatam? Is it just an exercise? I'm sure it's not, but I just want to hear from you. Is it an exercise of like an intellectual exercise, or can the reader expect to experience something deeper than just like the intellectual level? Can they perceive some kind of spiritual fulfillment? I won't put words in your mouth. I would like to hear that from you. The
Yeah.
effect of reading Srimad Bhagavatam.
So, see, Krishna's in the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says that there are four types of people who approach me: Arthartik, Jnani, and Jigyasu. So, people will approach in different, like, they have different desires and they would like to receive, like, for every scripture, there is a full Shruti. Okay. And depending on your desire, depending on your uh, inclination or what you want from the scripture, that the scripture can give you. But obviously the Bhagavatam gives the ultimate thing, and that ultimate thing is love of God. So, like, if you are seeking, if you want $1,000, the Bhagavatam actually gives you millions of dollars. So, in that sense, Bhagavatam can give you everything, and that everything includes whatever your desires are also there. Okay. Because millions of dollars includes $1,000. So similarly, when you want happiness, satisfaction, then you attain everything. So what is your goal to read the Bhagavatam? That is very important. So the Lord is like a desire tree. The Bhagavatam is like a desire tree. The way you approach the Bhagavatam, the way you approach the Lord, they will reciprocate accordingly. And if your goal is to please the Lord, then obviously the Bhagavatam will manifest. It will reveal itself in such a way that it will purify you in the process, and through that the Lord will be pleased by your effort. If you want the Bhagavatam to attain godly qualities or godly powers, then also you can do that. But again, you will be missing out the real juice of that, the real essential meaning of the Bhagavatam, the purpose of Bhagavatam. So there are unlimited benefits, but the problem is that while reading, while performing any kind of devotional activity, we also tend to commit offenses, and those offenses cover up the results of that particular devotional activity. Okay. Um, so in one sense, Bhagavatam will not only just give you love of God, and love of God will obviously also include opulence. It can also include all the qualities of the demigods, everything. But Bhagavatam, it has to be approached in the right spirit. It has to be studied in the right mood. And any process of devotion that we do, it has to be free from offenses to the holy name, to the devotees. If it is free, then only the Bhagavatam will actually show its full effect. Otherwise, it will be covered up. So, yeah. But one thing is there, that you will be amazed to understand what is given in the Bhagavatam, what is there in our Vedic culture. If you want to know what all things are there, then you'll be amazed to know a lot of things which are completely different. It's a different world. You'll be entering a different world altogether. Okay. And yeah, so if you have faith, you just go along with the flow, accept things, and you will get a lot of intellectual satisfaction. Not just that, but also uh, you will enter into a very different world altogether. So it's an experience that one has to take, one has to undergo. Um, yeah, because Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna. So it is basically, you are approaching the Lord directly. You are asking and desiring from the Lord directly. So depending on your desires, the Lord will actually reciprocate accordingly.
Yeah, and we need to mention that reading the Bhagavatam is just not about reading the verses. They may have potency, but they do have potency, but accompanied with the essence or the purports of one who has realized the Bhagavatam is also equally important. And fortunately, thankfully enough, we have the privilege of Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, one of the foremost proponents and one who has realized the Bhagavatam, has given his commentary. Thankfully, so that is like a very, very like a potent combination, which is accessible to everyone. So, Prabhuji, do you have a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam to show to everyone? Like, maybe there are people who have never seen. So just so that we would. Yeah, actually, I don't have one in this room.
Not here.
I would have.
But
because
it's quite easy actually. We can show it online also.
Even online, yeah, we could show it. Maybe we could just share our screen
Share the
real
screen.
quick.
You can, we can go to Bhagavatam and then go to images.
Yeah, let me do that. Just give me one moment. Yeah, because I feel we are talking about Bhagavatam.
Okay, I'm sharing it now.
Are you okay? Okay.
Yeah, so here we can see our Srimad Bhagavatam, the entire set.
Yeah,
and we also have in different languages.
And why don't you say that, like, you are also toiling very hard to bring the Bhagavatam to different people. So you are among one of the, like, I won't necessarily say like that you're competing or you're like the top, but you're one of those people who are trying their best to distribute Bhagavatam, which is the essence of all spiritual knowledge among people. So that is something that needs to be highlighted, that you're someone who has implicit faith in the Bhagavatam, and hence you are trying to bring that knowledge to people. So thank you very much for that service to humanity at large, and essentially serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada, who was out to do the same. So yeah,
well,
thank you very much.
I mean, I'm not doing anything actually as such. Basically, it's a desire of Srila Prabhupada that the knowledge of the scriptures should be made available to every nook and corner of the world. And that's how he has put so much efforts. And he has made available everything in English language, which is so unique. Otherwise, we don't have all these translations. And then obviously, he created a society. Now the books are translated in different languages of the world, not just of India, but different languages of the world. So, yeah, I mean, and basically the point is that the Bhagavatam in itself will actually, if the Bhagavatam is in the house of a person, then just by being the presence of the Bhagavatam in itself will purify the entire house, and eventually a person will get a lot of merit just by keeping the Bhagavatam, even if they are not able to read the book, but just they are inviting
Just
the Lord in
keeping
the
the Bhagavatam.
house. And it is like, the sun. So basically the question is that, okay, do you feel that just by keeping, or just by having the sun, everything will be dispersed, or the darkness will be dispersed completely? If a person is in mode of darkness, mode of ignorance, and if he has the Bhagavatam, how will that affect? So the example is given that just like the clouds, they try to cover the sun. Okay, but which is the what is the way the cloud is going to get dispersed? How is it going to get dispersed? The only way is through the rays of the sun. So even though apparently it seems that the cloud has covered the sun, but just by the presence of the sun, the clouds will ultimately get dispersed. They will go away, right? So similarly, even if a person is in the mode of ignorance or passion, and if he is not even able to read the Bhagavatam, but just by the presence of Bhagavatam in the house, automatically after some time, the cloud of ignorance will be removed completely. So this is the effect of Srimad Bhagavatam, and yeah, we try to distribute to people, and I think this is an experience that they can get by having Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's actually our great fortune that we have the Bhagavatam in different languages also, not English, but Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, Telugu, Malayalam, all these languages we have the Bhagavatam. So people can take advantage of it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for talking at length, describing the sources of knowledge, the difference between heard knowledge and realized knowledge, and how they are the same. They're of the same nature, and yet there is a reason why they are divided. And then elaborating on the glories and establishing the supreme authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like from my own experience also, I've spent a lot of time reading the Bhagavatam, and I have derived inspiration, and also I've been able to get answers to a lot of my questions. So indeed, Srimad Bhagavatam is a book that is an experience. So it is not an intellectual exercise. I was asking you the question because I wanted to hear from you, and I have kind of understood that myself as well. So we are very grateful that you have spent time to make this presentation. We call it a chat show, but it is more of a presentation that you did for all of us. And if you have any final words before we wrap up, you're welcome. You're welcome
Okay.
to go.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask others if they have any question.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. Swati, did you have any questions for Pratik? I don't know if there was anyone else. No, I don't think anyone else joined, but I'm looking. I'm seeing if there is any comments in the live video or any
You're not
questions
able to
there.
hear. I think she had unmuted, but I was not able to hear.
Oh, so okay, yeah, I was not seeing. Yeah, go ahead, Swati, if you have any questions.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the Facebook under the Facebook video. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, how is the ultimate authority, and hopefully people they get an opportunity to go through the Bhagavatam and experience the Bhagavatam. So thank you all.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.